Hey yo folks, coming at you with another Helminth build guide, because that's your favorite time of day. Just popping by this channel and finding a new Helminth build guide, yeah. So today we are gonna be looking at my main, the Warframe that I have run more than any other. It's good old Equinox. I love Equinox. She is the best. She's the best, folks. Like, I know that she's not maybe like the sort of ultimate, you know, meta Warframe for everything. When we talk about nuke frames in the game, people usually talk about Mesa and Saren, and Equinox sometimes is included in that conversation, but that's actually not entirely fair, because Equinox is great, absolutely fantastic for like content on the lower end of the scale. You can stand in Hydron and AFK for 20 minutes and just let your main kill everything for you. So people sort of assume that Equinox is better than it actually is, because once you start getting up into the higher tier of content, you know, Steel Path and stuff like that, Equinox trails behind, for example, Mesa and Saren. And the reason for that is because Mesa and Saren are unfair. They do things that are not fair. Equinox is different. Equinox is actually fair. Equinox is... One thing I really love about Equinox is the design of the Warframe itself. That it's built in a way where it's never going to be super unfair. And the reason for that is because Equinox has a bunch of stuff that all need to work together in the kit to make everything work. And Equinox is only as strong as the weakest link in that kit. If you have something that is not up to par, then that's gonna like drag down everything. Now, quick explanation first for Equinox, and specifically Dayform Equinox, because that is my favorite way of playing Equinox, and that is how I have built this Helminth build as well. Equinox has, in particular, one skill, which is the Mend and Maim. Equinox, depending on if they're in day form or night form, will have different abilities. So if you're in night form, you have Rest, Pacify, and Mend. If you're in day form, you have Rage, Provoke, and Maim. Maim, you activate it, and then enemies around you will take a stun, they will take a bit of slash damage. It will kill enemies on low-level content. On high-level content, this sort of slash damage won't even tickle them. So that's not the main point of it. The main point of it is a bit of crowd control, and most importantly, you start building up your Maim counter, which is when you kill enemies while Maim is active, you build up a counter. And here, I'll show you. Let's drop the level down to 50 so I can demonstrate this. And that counter is stored energy. So now I've activated Maim. As you can see, when I get close to the enemies, they take a bit of slash damage. They get staggered for a little while, which is nice. It's a bit of convenience. But if you look at my top right, you have a number that says 0, and that's my Maim counter. And as we start killing people, you can see this Maim counter build up. This is my stored energy, and I'm gonna use it to eventually detonate like a huge nuke, which I can do whenever I want. So as you can see, killing 20 Corrupted Heavy Gunners level 50 with my weapon will give me about 288,000 stored Maim damage. So what I want to do then is I want to just go into the thick of things, because it's based on range and it comes outward from Equinox, and you just detonate it. So I just press 4 again and boom. That's how Equinox works, Dayform Equinox. And then you start it again, and then you build up your Maim counter, and then you detonate it. So, what makes Equinox fair? Well, simply put, you have to kill things in order to build up your huge nuke. Saren, for example, doesn't have to do that. She just tosses out a spore, lets it tick up over time, and just does the work by itself. She can just stand and hang out in a corner. And then you just press miasma and everything dies. It requires no active effort. With Equinox, you actually have to kill things. You have to kill things with your weapons to build up your Maim. And if you can't kill things with your weapon, you can't build up your nuke, you can't detonate your nuke, and you won't get your big kaboomy. So that's why Equinox is fair. So, on high-level content, what the problem usually is then is that like Equinox is kind of squishy. She requires a ton of mobility. You gotta be parkouring and darting around and flying zippity zoop zap zap. You cannot just like stand and tank stuff like a rhino can. And certain enemy types are harder to deal with than others. Specifically, Equinox struggles a bit with armor. The reason for that is because the maim detonation is slash damage, so it completely ignores shields. So Equinox can just tear straight through Corpus units, which is great. Infested is never a problem because infested units are kind of squishy as it is, and they're not that hard to kill. Corpus units are a struggle. If you go up to the very, very high levels, the highest, I'm going to show you, it starts trailing off. So, first of all, I'm going to fast forward here, because I'm going to build up my maim counter by killing all of these guys to just show you. Now, killing 20 corrupted heavy gunners at level 175 is going to give you approximately 1.5 million stored maim damage. So, what does 1.5 stored maim damage do against enemies? Like, if you're playing as Corpus or Infested, I'll tell you what it'll do. You click the button and everything dies. But against stuff that has, like, super, super heavy armor, let's look at this. How much damage will I do with a explosion of 1.5 million damage? Slightly less than half their health. Even, like, and it trails off with, like, distance. So the people who are further away take even less damage. And, you know, it's a decent amount of damage. But that's not what you want in your sort of endgame nuke, right? That's not what you're looking at in your numbers if you want this to be viable to sort of push through that level of content. So, now we come to the Helminth infusion. And I have given Equinox Hildren's Pillage. So, here's the thing about, like, giving stuff for Equinox. The kit is kind of straightforward. There's not that much, like, that synergizes with it. There's not sort of like a perfect pick among the Helminth abilities to put into Equinox. There are certain different things you can choose that'll, like, make it incrementally better, but nothing that, like, sort of really, really sticks out. I've seen people say stuff like, you know, using Octavia's Resonator as a survivability tool, but that doesn't help enough, because Equinox needs both in high-level content. Equinox needs both more survivability and more damage. It's not good enough with either or. I've seen some people use Roar, but that does not help mitigate the factor that Equinox dies a whole lot in Steel Path because she's kind of squishy. So, Pillage is kind of great sort of in between because it accomplishes both things at the same time. It's an ability that scales with range, which you always want to build your Equinox for anyway, and it drains shields and armor from enemies around you, so you restore your own shields with it, and it clears status effects, great for, like, just survivability as well. And the thing about Equinox's, or the thing about Pillage's armor drain, is that it's permanent. The armor that you deplete from enemies, they don't get it back. So, Pillage, the way you play it is, like, you activate the ability, and then it has a duration, it pulses outward, and then it comes back and gives you shields. So there's a delay to it. And if you want shields right away, you can cut that delay short by just pressing the ability button again. So if I press 1, and then 1, I, like, immediately get the shields back. So you can do that by pressing it twice. And you do it again, and you do it again. So, if you use Pillage several times, the armor stripping stacks multiplicatively. So it's never gonna go down to, like, absolute 0, but, like, with the ability strength I have, The first time I pillage, I take off 50% of their shields. And next time I do it, I take off 50% of the remaining shields, and then I take off 50% of the remaining shields. So, four pillages, I've taken off like 95% of their shields. So now, if I just, you know, I activate my maim to build it up, but now if I just shoot them with my Exceltra, like, they go down pretty quickly. As you can see, like, they are not at all as tough as they were before. So, their health bars are still yellow, but in effect, they have, like, almost no shields left. So this is the demonstration part of the video, where I'm just gonna show you sort of the before and after, right? So, now, again, I have 1.47 million maim damage. As you saw before, a normal maim detonation will take off about half their health. About half their health. What we're gonna do now is we're gonna strip their shields. Let's do it twice. That's once, and that's twice, which is fairly normal. And now we'll detonate. Yeah! So, that's how you do it. That's how you make your maim keep up for Steel Path and generate the damage output that you needed to do, specifically in Grunier missions. Corpus and Infested are fine. You can push with them, with Equinox and Steel Path as it is. It's not a problem. It's not a problem. Now, we're gonna do one more thing here. Okay? We're gonna add another thing to the equation. An often overlooked part of Equinox's kit. Because people think it has like too much of a drawback to use it. And that is, we're gonna toss in Rage as well. Rage is another part of Equinox's kit, which exists, and it's actually quite relevant for Steel Path. Quite relevant. Most people overlook it because in normal content, Equinox does enough damage to where you don't even need to use Rage. So what is Rage? Rage is Equinox's second ability. Depending on which form you're in, it does different things. When you're in day form, you make enemies more vulnerable to damage. That's what it does. You remove their sort of damage reduction. And you also, unfortunately, make the enemies go faster. They get a speed increase. So that's the drawback of using it. And as you can see, this is kind of ludicrous, right? With 200% ability strength. There's 100% damage vulnerability. They take double damage. Compare that to like Roar, which gives like, what, a 30% damage increase. Well, hey, this is effectively 100% damage increase. You could double your damage output. So, here's what we're gonna do. I'm gonna have to get my stuff back because it got depleted when I went into the arsenal. 1 second. Okay. We once again have our 1.47 million stored damage. I'm gonna activate the number 3 ability. The Provoke, which increases my ability strength, which is even nicer, because that means an even bigger damage debuff and even more armor stripping. So, with 1.47 million in stored damage, we are going to pillage once. We're gonna hit these guys with Rage. And then we're gonna detonate. See? That's what we wanna see! Those are the damage numbers we wanna see. And, like I said, Pillage also comes with the wonderful utility that it gives you shields back. Which is very nice for survivability, as I'm about to show you. quite nice. It's quite nice to just, you know, whenever you're in trouble, just double-click your number 1 button, get all your shields back, and at the same time, strip armor from your enemies. And at the same time, hit them with a damage vulnerability debuff. And at the same time, build your main counter. And whenever you just happen to be in a big clump of enemies, just click your number 4 button. And everything explodes, and everything dies. It's a very nice time. Now, since this build is basically just centered around damage output and using the day form, we are not switching between night and day. We're not using the rest form for sleeping enemies or healing and stuff like that. And since we are not switching forms, we have just removed the ability to switch forms. And Metamorphosis, number 1 ability, which is what you use to switch between day form and night form. Because we're not gonna be switching forms with this build. We're just always going to be in day form, so that ability does nothing. It's completely pointless for us. So that's where you put the Pillage, because you definitely want your Rage, you definitely want your Provoke, and you absolutely want your Maim. That's the build. That's how it functions. So, final part of the puzzle is, you know, okay, so you don't use your Metamorphosis. How do you know that you're going to be in day form? That is set by your emissive color. If you have a bright emissive color, you will start the mission in day form. And when you revive, you're going to revive in day form. If you pick a dark emissive color, look at that. You're in night form. It's just by default. So, just make sure that you're using a very bright color. And you are going to be day form Equinox. Yeah. So, that's the build. That's the build. It's not groundbreaking. It's not like a sort of new busted interaction. Whoa, like, you know, my Tesla limbo that I presented before. But not everything has to be that. Sometimes it's just a matter of, like, just increments and making a build slightly more viable than it was before. And just, you know, it can do some stuff that it couldn't do before, but it's mostly going to play the same, just going to be a bit stronger than before. That's the case for Equinox, at least as far as I've been sort of experimenting with it now. I haven't found anything else that sort of... I haven't found any other ability that accomplishes as many things at the same time that Equinox needs as Pillage does. So for now, that's my recommendation as the overall best ability to sort of just strengthen Equinox and make her better at the things that she's already doing, and also giving her a bump of survivability at the same time. So yeah. Yeah. Pillage, Rage, and Maim.